Don't skip. Have you ever felt stuck in your own life? The days rush past, work pressures, expectations from others, endless worries stacking up. You do your best to keep everything together, to stay in control, but the more you tighten your grip, the more peace seems to slip away. Your mind runs in circles, replaying the same anxious thoughts, and happiness always feels just out of reach, slipping through your fingers. But what if there was another way? What if, instead of being caught up in the chaos, you could take a step back and see everything with a calm, unshakable clarity? What if you could release what you can't control, face challenges with quiet strength, and free yourself from the endless struggle with your emotions? This isn't just some ideal, it's the way of the Stoics. True peace doesn't come from controlling the world around you. It comes from mastering how you respond to it. And today, we're going to dive into exactly how you can do that. Let's get started. Accept everything as it is. We often live under the illusion that we can control everything. We meticulously plan for the future, expecting events to unfold exactly as we envision. But when life takes an unexpected turn, we panic, grow frustrated, and even suffer. The truth is, countless things lie beyond our control: the weather, the actions of others, unforeseen circumstances. If we continue resisting reality, we are only causing ourselves unnecessary misery. Epictetus once said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish for them to happen as they do happen. Then you will be happy." When we stop forcing expectations onto the world and instead accept it as it is, we find happiness. But acceptance does not mean surrender or passivity. On the contrary, it is a state of awareness, one in which we learn to distinguish between what we can influence and what is simply beyond our reach. Think of a chess player. They cannot control their opponent's moves, but they can adjust their strategy accordingly. Or a sailor. They have no power over the wind's direction, but they can set their sails wisely to navigate the currents. So, how do we practice acceptance in daily life? The first step is to clearly recognize the boundary between what we can control and what we cannot. Our efforts, our decisions, those are within our power. But outcomes? They are not. Our own actions are ours to choose, but the emotions and behaviors of others are not. Once we understand this distinction, we stop wasting energy on things beyond our reach. But understanding this is one thing, applying it is another. That's where practice comes in. We cultivate acceptance in small, everyday moments, preparing ourselves for greater challenges ahead. When stuck in traffic, rather than growing impatient, use the time to reflect or enjoy your favorite music. When rain disrupts your plans, instead of feeling disappointed, embrace the moment. Feel the cool raindrops on your skin. Breathe in the fresh scent of the earth after the storm. These small shifts gradually shape a new way of seeing the world. Ironically, the more we try to control life, the more fragile we become. But when we learn to accept, a strange sense of freedom arises. It is like a river flowing around rocks instead of trying to break through them, or a kite soaring with the wind rather than fighting against it. We become more adaptable, more at ease, and most importantly, no longer consumed by unnecessary negative emotions. Is this easy? Of course not. Human nature craves control, constantly trying to mold life to our will, but that very desire is what leads to disappointment. Ask yourself, how many times have you felt miserable simply because things didn't go as planned? How often have you been angry because someone didn't act the way you expected? How many moments of joy have you lost, dwelling on the past or worrying about the future? Life will never be perfect, but we can choose how we see it. If today you decide to accept everything as it is, without resentment, without resistance, simply accepting, you will find the world feels lighter, and your heart will be at peace. And that is the path to happiness. Yet acceptance is only half the journey. After all, life is not just what we see before us. It is also the unknown that lies ahead. What will tomorrow bring? Will our expectations be met, or will we face an unforeseen twist? If we constantly fear the unknown, can our minds ever truly find peace? To discover lasting happiness, we must learn to embrace uncertainty with an open heart, something we'll explore next. Control your mind. Have you ever felt like you were trapped in a storm with no escape? A single criticism lingers in your thoughts, ruining your whole day. An unanswered message sends you spiraling, overthinking countless worst-case scenarios. One small failure snowballs into a flood of negativity, making you feel like the entire world is against you. But here's something most people don't realize. The storm isn't outside of you. It's inside your own mind. And if you learn to master it, you'll find something you've been searching for your whole life: inner peace. I used to be a prisoner of my own thoughts. If someone insulted me, I got angry. If things didn't go my way, I felt defeated. I drifted through life like a tiny boat in a raging ocean, tossed around by the waves, never realizing I had the power to steer my own course. Then one day, I came across a quote from Epictetus that changed everything. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That hit me like a slap in the face. No one could actually make me angry or hurt me. They simply acted or spoke as they wanted. But my emotions, that was my choice. I realized it wasn't the world making me suffer. It was how I interpreted the world. From that moment on, I started practicing one simple principle that transformed my life. Observe your mind instead of letting it control you. Try this. Close your eyes and imagine someone saying something that upsets you. You feel the anger rising, don't you? Now, instead of letting it explode, pause. Ask yourself, is it really their words that hurt me? Or is it my own thoughts about their words? Then ask, can I control my reaction? Is there another way to see this situation? You'll soon realize that emotions don't just happen to you, they are created by you. If you change how you think, you change how you feel. And when you gain control over how you feel, you take control of your life. Picture yourself holding a burning coal in your hand. You're angry, you're in pain, yet you refuse to let go. You think gripping it tightly will somehow hurt the other person, but the only one getting burned is you. Negative emotions work the same way. We hold on to anger, pain, and anxiety as if they're part of who we are. But if you learn to master your mind, you can let them go. And that is true freedom. Once you stop searching for peace outside yourself and begin cultivating it within, no one will ever have the power to hurt you again. So how do you practice this? First, start observing your thoughts. When emotions surge, don't react immediately. Step back, detach yourself, and watch them as if they don't belong to you. Next, recognize that you are not your emotions. Anger, anxiety, sadness, they don't define you. They're just passing waves on the surface of your mind. And once you see them for what they are, you can choose how to respond. When negativity arises, ask yourself, can I react differently? And finally, remember, nothing can hurt you unless you allow it to. What others say or do only affects you if you give it permission to. You don't need to change the world to find peace. You don't need to control everything around you to be happy. Peace isn't something you find outside. It's how you perceive the world. Like the eye of a storm, calm, steady, unaffected by the raging winds of life, you can be that stillness within your own world. And it all begins with one thing: mastering your mind. Embrace uncertainty. Why do we fear uncertainty? Because our minds are trapped by the illusion of control. We crave the assurance of knowing what tomorrow holds. We want certainty that our plans will unfold exactly as expected. But in truth, everything can change in an instant. A sudden storm, an unexpected phone call, an unforeseen opportunity. And what happens when we resist uncertainty? We become tense, anxious, desperately clinging to things that were never truly ours to hold. But when we learn to embrace it, that's when we become free. Epictetus once said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." When we internalize this wisdom, we stop wasting energy on what lies beyond our control and shift our focus to how we respond instead. A trader cannot dictate market movements, but they can manage their investment decisions. A person cannot stop the rain from falling, but they can choose to carry an umbrella or simply enjoy the rain. It is this ability to shift our perspective that turns uncertainty from an enemy into an ally. Picture your mind as a wild horse. If you try to control it by yanking the reins too tightly, it will resist, throwing you off. But if you learn to guide it with skill and ease, you can ride freely without fear. Uncertainty works the same way. Instead of fighting against it, learn to ride its waves. When facing an uncertain future, don't panic. Instead, ask, what opportunity does this bring? Rather than thinking, what's the worst that could happen? Shift your focus to, how can I adapt? Applying this mindset in daily life is easier than you might expect. The first step is to recognize the things you are trying to control in vain. Write them down. I worry about how others perceive me. I fear my plans will fail. I'm scared things won't go as expected. Then ask yourself, are these things truly within my control? If not, let them go. Next, practice adaptability. Try going through a day without rigidly planning every detail. Allow things to unfold naturally. When an unexpected obstacle appears, observe your reaction. Do you tense up or do you accept it? Can you find a creative solution instead of resisting? Each time you succeed, you'll feel lighter, stronger. And finally, cultivate faith in yourself. Not blind faith that everything will always be perfect, but confidence that whatever happens, you will handle it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that human beings possess an extraordinary ability to adapt, so long as they do not lose their composure in the face of the unknown. You don't need to know exactly what the future holds. You only need to trust that, whatever comes, you will stand firm. Look back on your life. How many times have moments of uncertainty led to doors you never expected, to experiences beyond your imagination? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear about your journey. And if you still hesitate to embrace uncertainty, perhaps now is the time to face it with courage. You may not control every turn life takes, but you can learn to move with it and savor the ride. And when you do, you won't just find peace. You'll uncover an extraordinary strength within yourself. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue building resilience, finding wisdom, and discovering strength together on this journey. Be indifferent to praise and criticism. Imagine yourself walking through a bustling marketplace. Vendors call out to you from every direction, each trying to grab your attention with their pitch, their price, their enticing offers. Some flatter you. You have an excellent eye for quality. Others criticize. You probably don't even know how to choose properly. Now, if you reacted to every single comment, you'd be drained before even leaving the market. But if you simply smile and keep walking, none of it lingers. Life works the same way. People will always have opinions about you. One day you're admired, the next you're dismissed. If you allow yourself to be swayed by every word, you'll be trapped in a constant cycle of validation and rejection, of fleeting joy and deep disappointment. But if you choose indifference, not because you don't care, but because you understand that your worth isn't determined by praise or criticism, you'll experience true freedom. What does this mean? It means you don't need to please everyone. If someone likes you, great. If someone doesn't, that's fine too. The Stoics don't suggest becoming emotionless or detached. Rather, they encourage you to recognize that your mind belongs to you, not to the crowd. Epictetus once said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" If someone speaks badly about you, instead of scrambling to defend yourself or trying to fix your reputation in their eyes, ask yourself, how many of my flaws have they not even noticed? Is their opinion really worth your concern? This mindset may seem paradoxical, but it is incredibly freeing. Rather than worrying about how others perceive you, remind yourself that you are imperfect, and that's perfectly okay. The truth is, no matter what you do, someone will always judge you. Even if you become the best version of yourself, there will still be those who find you lacking. So why exhaust yourself trying to shape your image to fit everyone's expectations? When you stop seeking control over how others see you, you'll feel an immense sense of relief. But does this kind of indifference mean you stop striving for self-improvement? Not at all. In fact, the right kind of detachment makes you stronger. Because when you're no longer controlled by praise or criticism, you can dedicate yourself fully to your goals. Try this. Before making any decision, ask yourself, if no one were watching, if there was no one to praise or criticize me, would I still do this? If the answer is yes, you're on the right path. If the answer is no, then maybe you're only doing it for external validation. Rather than looking for approval from others, learn to evaluate yourself. Each night ask, did I live according to my values today? Am I better than I was yesterday? If you can answer those questions with honesty and satisfaction, then the opinions of others will lose their grip on you. Think of the great figures in history: Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus. They were criticized, even persecuted. But did that change them? Number. They remained steadfast in their philosophy, unmoved by either praise or condemnation. So will you take on this challenge? Just for one day, live without worrying about what others think. Say what you truly mean. Do what you believe is right, without seeking approval from anyone. And by the end of the day, you'll notice something. You'll feel lighter. Because in the end, when you stop chasing approval, you don't just find peace. You find yourself. Let go of the need to be right. Imagine yourself standing on a ship in the middle of the ocean. The sea is calm, the breeze is gentle, and the sun shines brilliantly. Then someone walks up to you and says, "The sky isn't blue, it's purple." How do you feel? Annoyed? An urge to argue? A burning desire to prove them wrong? Now think carefully. If you debate with them, will the sky suddenly change color? Will they nod in agreement and admit you're right? Or are you simply wasting your energy on something that doesn't matter? Stoicism doesn't ask you to abandon the truth, but it does remind you that not every battle is worth fighting. If someone can make you angry, it's not because they are powerful, it's because you've handed them control over your emotions. Let's be honest, we don't argue just to seek the truth. We argue to defend our ego. We crave validation. We fear looking foolish. We fear losing power. We fear not being smart enough. And in our obsession with always being right, we unknowingly sacrifice our inner peace. Our minds are like fortresses. When someone challenges our beliefs, our first instinct is to raise the walls in defense. But pause for a moment. Why do we need to defend? Why can't we simply take a step back, smile, and let them believe whatever they want? Imagine holding a burning coal in your hand, ready to throw it at someone during an argument. Who gets burned first? The ego wants you to clutch that coal tightly, whispering, "If you let go, you lose. But is winning a meaningless battle worth the pain of a scorched hand? How to let go of the need to be right. Observe your reactions. The next time someone disagrees with you, instead of immediately pushing back, pause and ask yourself, do I really need to prove that I'm right? Is this worth disturbing my peace? 9 times out of 10, the answer will be no. Practice the art of listening. Most debates aren't about truth. They're about people wanting to be heard. When you stop trying to win the conversation and start truly listening, you'll be surprised at how people open up to you. In silence, real wisdom emerges. Know when to walk away. Not everyone is ready to let go of their need to be right. Some people value winning arguments more than they value peace. They will try to pull you into endless cycles of debate. But here's the key. You don't have to attend every battle you're invited to. True strength lies in knowing when to step away. So ask yourself, do I want to be the one who wins the argument, or the one who finds inner peace? If true happiness is your goal, maybe it's time to lower your sword, step back, and free your mind. Keep going. The best is yet to come. You've already made it more than halfway through this journey. Not everyone has the patience to pause in the rush of life and reflect deeply like this. So take a moment to acknowledge your progress. Be indifferent to praise and criticism. Imagine yourself walking through a bustling marketplace. Vendors call out to you from every direction, each trying to grab your attention with their pitch, their price, their enticing offers. Some flatter you. You have an excellent eye for quality. Others criticize. You probably don't even know how to choose properly. Now, if you reacted to every single comment, you'd be drained before even leaving the market. But if you simply smile and keep walking, none of it lingers. Life works the same way. People will always have opinions about you. One day you're admired, the next you're dismissed. If you allow yourself to be swayed by every word, you'll be trapped in a constant cycle of validation and rejection, of fleeting joy and deep disappointment. But if you choose indifference, not because you don't care, but because you understand that your worth isn't determined by praise or criticism, you'll experience true freedom. What does this mean? It means you don't need to please everyone. If someone likes you, great. If someone doesn't, that's fine too. The Stoics don't suggest becoming emotionless or detached. Rather, they encourage you to recognize that your mind belongs to you, not to the crowd. Epictetus once said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" If someone speaks badly about you, instead of scrambling to defend yourself or trying to fix your reputation in their eyes, ask yourself, how many of my flaws have they not even noticed? Is their opinion really worth your concern? This mindset may seem paradoxical, but it is incredibly freeing. Rather than worrying about how others perceive you, remind yourself that you are imperfect, and that's perfectly okay. The truth is, no matter what you do, someone will always judge you. Even if you become the best version of yourself, there will still be those who find you lacking. So why exhaust yourself trying to shape your image to fit everyone's expectations? When you stop seeking control over how others see you, you'll feel an immense sense of relief. But does this kind of indifference mean you stop striving for self-improvement? Not at all. In fact, the right kind of detachment makes you stronger. Because when you're no longer controlled by praise or criticism, you can dedicate yourself fully to your goals. Try this. Before making any decision, ask yourself, if no one were watching, if there was no one to praise or criticize me, would I still do this? If the answer is yes, you're on the right path. If the answer is no, then maybe you're only doing it for external validation. Rather than looking for approval from others, learn to evaluate yourself. Each night ask, did I live according to my values today? Am I better than I was yesterday? If you can answer those questions with honesty and satisfaction, then the opinions of others will lose their grip on you. Think of the great figures in history: Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus. They were criticized, even persecuted. But did that change them? Number. They remained steadfast in their philosophy, unmoved by either praise or condemnation. So will you take on this challenge? Just for one day, live without worrying about what others think. Say what you truly mean. Do what you believe is right, without seeking approval from anyone. And by the end of the day, you'll notice something. You'll feel lighter. Because in the end, when you stop chasing approval, you don't just find peace, you find yourself. Expect less. There's a story about a beggar wandering the streets, his clothes tattered, his eyes deep and hollow, as if they had witnessed a lifetime of storms. One day a passerby asked him, "How can you remain so calm when you have nothing?" The old man smiled slightly and replied, "Because I never thought I was supposed to have anything." We don't suffer because of what we lack. We suffer because of what we believe we should have had: an ideal relationship, a smooth career, a life without hardship. These expectations are like an invisible contract we unknowingly sign with life. But the irony is, life never agreed to those terms, and when reality doesn't align with our script, disappointment rushes in like a flood. Stoic philosophy teaches that the only way to find peace is to expect less. This doesn't mean giving up on everything. It means understanding that the world does not operate according to our desires. And when you grasp this, you will no longer feel betrayed by life. Why we suffer. Think about it. How many times have you been angry because someone didn't treat you the way you expected? How many times have you been frustrated because success didn't come when you thought it should? But have you ever asked yourself, who promised me that things would go my way? Seneca once said, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." We torment ourselves with expectations of an uncertain future. But if you pause and take a look around, you might realize that at this very moment, nothing is actually wrong. Things are simply not happening the way you expected them to. What happens when you expect less? Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding to expect nothing. You don't expect anyone to love you in a certain way. You don't expect work to go smoothly. You don't expect every plan to unfold perfectly. Something strange happens when you do this. You start to appreciate the little things you once overlooked: a spontaneous smile, a quiet morning, a heartfelt conversation. When you stop expecting so much, even the simplest moments can bring you joy. Expecting less doesn't mean leading a dull life. It means learning to embrace life as it is. When you lower your expectations, you also reduce your fears. You stop worrying about losing things because you were never tightly attached to them in the first place. Like a leaf floating down a river, you begin to drift freely, without resistance. The real question: do you truly need everything you desire to be happy? Or is it your very desires that are causing your suffering? Today, try living without imposing expectations on the world. Observe, listen, accept. Approach life as if you were a traveler stepping into an uncharted journey. Because when you stop demanding that life follow your script, you will discover something remarkable. Life has always been beautiful in its own way. You just never noticed. Seeing the world with eyes free of expectation brings peace. But then comes another challenge. How do you protect that peace? Life not only pulls us into our own desires, but also weighs us down with the expectations of others. If you say yes to every request, if you let others dictate how you spend your time and energy, are you truly in control of your life? perhaps it's time to embrace another powerful principle. Say no more. Often have you ever watched those sci-fi movies featuring magical doors that can take you anywhere, to a land of joy, a place filled with light, or even a chaotic abyss? Here's the strange thing. In real life, such a door exists. It doesn't require a golden key. It doesn't rely on magic. It's a single word. No, a simple word, yet if used correctly, it can unlock the door to a more peaceful and fulfilling life. On the other hand, if you hesitate to step through it, you may find yourself trapped in a never-ending maze, where every turn leads to commitments you never truly wanted. The banquet of life. Imagine this. You're standing before a lavish banquet, overflowing with tempting dishes. You're not really hungry, but the host keeps urging you to just try a little. You feel guilty turning them down. So, you take a bite, then another. Before you know it, you've overeaten, feeling heavy, exhausted, maybe even regretful. Life is like that banquet. Invitations, responsibilities, and opportunities constantly present themselves, and we often feel pressured to say yes. But just as overeating makes the body sluggish, taking on too much wears down the mind. True freedom lies in saying no. The Stoics believed that true freedom doesn't come from pleasing everyone, it comes from mastering oneself. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." If you want to live a meaningful life, you must let go of what isn't truly yours to carry. Try seeing rejection not as turning something down, but as making a choice. When you say no to one thing, you're not rejecting people or opportunities. You're simply choosing a path that aligns better with who you are. The art of selective rejection. A great artist isn't the one who paints everything they can, but the one who knows which strokes to erase. A fulfilling life doesn't come from doing it all. It comes from carefully choosing what's worth your time and energy. If you're not used to saying no, the world around you won't take it lightly. People will react. They may be surprised. Some may feel disappointed. But that's a good sign, because if you've never let anyone down, chances are you've sacrificed too much of your freedom just to please others. The unexpected benefit of saying no. So, what happens when you start saying no? Something fascinating. Life feels lighter. The truly important things naturally rise above the noise. You have more time to focus on what genuinely brings you joy. And most importantly, you start to feel free. Because at the end of the day, happiness isn't about having more. It's about carrying less. Are you ready to open that door? Sometimes, a single no can change everything. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by meaningless yeses, take this as a sign. Drop a "say no" in the comments as a commitment to yourself, that from today onward, you will curate your life with greater intention. Embrace discomfort to grow. Imagine yourself as a sharp blade. Without the grindstone, without pressure and friction, your edge dulls, becoming useless. Life operates the same way. If you constantly avoid discomfort, if you refuse to face challenges, you will never sharpen yourself, never evolve into the strongest version of who you can be. The Stoics believed that hardship, inconvenience, and adversity are not obstacles to growth, but the very conditions that allow us to thrive. You've probably heard the saying, if you want to be strong, you must be willing to endure. But have you ever wondered why? Happiness and peace don't come from ease, but from embracing discomfort. Strength is built in struggle. Stoicism does not seek a life of convenience. Instead, it cultivates inner strength to confront difficulties head-on. Epictetus once said, "Difficulties show a man's character." Therefore, when trouble comes, Think of yourself as a wrestler whom God, like a trainer, has paired with a tough young man for practice. Challenges are not punishments, they are training grounds. Just as a wrestler must train with a stronger opponent to refine his skills, we too must embrace life's discomforts to grow. How to embrace discomfort? Think of professional boxers. They don't just endure the pain of being hit, they train with harder punches every day. This doesn't just toughen their bodies, it conditions their minds to withstand hardship. In daily life, you can apply this principle in small yet powerful ways. Wake up earlier than you want to. Train your discipline. Step outside your comfort zone when faced with a daunting opportunity. Have that difficult conversation instead of avoiding it. Voluntarily embrace inconvenience. Walk instead of driving. Silence your phone. Resist distractions. Every small act of discomfort builds resilience. The paradox of happiness. It seems paradoxical, doesn't it? We often believe happiness lies in comfort, yet the most fulfilled people are those who have faced trials and mastered their minds in the face of adversity. When you willingly accept discomfort, it stops being suffering and transforms into training. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly faced something that made you uncomfortable? Did you step into it or shy away? The Stoics never sought the easy path. They entered life as warriors, standing firm in the face of storms, knowing that resilience is not found in avoidance, but in confrontation. Life is forging you, not breaking you. If today feels difficult, don't curse it. Be grateful. Life is not breaking you, it is forging you. So the next time you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, remember this: growth never comes from ease. Embrace the challenge, make it part of your journey. And in doing so, you will discover a profound sense of peace, not by escaping life's hardships, but by rising to meet them. Reflect on death. We live as if we are immortal, as if tomorrow is always waiting for us. We tell ourselves that one day we will truly start living. Yet we bury ourselves in trivial worries, invisible pressures, and unnecessary distractions. We postpone happiness, we delay life, while time moves forward, waiting for no one. But if there is one undeniable truth in this world, it is this: we will die. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. Stoic philosophy does not shy away from death. It faces it head-on. The Stoics embraced the powerful mantra, memento mori. Remember that you will die, not to instill fear, but to awaken us. Because only when we truly grasp the inevitability of death do we learn how to live. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Think about it. If today were your last, would you still hold grudges over petty matters? Would you still spend hours scrolling through social media, disconnected from real life? Or would you hold your loved ones a little longer? Would you summon the courage to say what you've never dared to say? Would you savor each moment you once took for granted? The paradox of death. Contemplating death does not bring despair. It liberates us. It acts as a sharp blade, cutting away the trivial, leaving us only with what truly matters. It reminds us that nothing is worth wasting time on. Not regret, not fear, not the endless pursuit of things we don't actually need. How the Stoics practiced this. The Stoics did not wait until their final moments to learn how to live. Instead, they frequently asked themselves, if this were the last time I did this, how would I do it? When eating, when walking, when conversing, when simply observing the world. They approached everything with absolute presence, as if it were their last chance. You can start this today with a simple exercise. Each night before bed, imagine that you might not wake up the next morning. Not to be pessimistic, but to reflect. Did I live fully today? Did I do something meaningful? If this were my last day, would I have any regrets? This is not a new idea. Samurai warriors lived by the same philosophy. They believed that only by accepting death could they fight without fear. In the same way, when we make peace with death, we break free from the chains of unnecessary worries. We live boldly. We live fearlessly. We stop delaying what matters most. Are you truly living today? So ask yourself again, if tomorrow never comes, are you truly living today? Conclusion. These 9 Stoic principles offer a profound and practical way to navigate life with resilience and peace. What stands out most to me is the idea that happiness isn't about controlling everything, but about mastering ourselves, our reactions, our expectations, and our inner world. The reminder to embrace discomfort, let go of the need to be right, and reflect on death is especially powerful. We often resist challenges, seek validation, and fear endings, but these principles show that true freedom comes from acceptance and intentional living. Ultimately, Stoicism teaches that we can't always change what happens, but we can always choose how we respond, and that's where our power lies. What about you? Which of these lessons resonates with you the most?